Welcome in to Moving the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks. Got a great interview line today, a very special guest, the new head coach of the Clover Blue Eagles, Perry Woolbright. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
We appreciate your time. We really do. If this is you guys' first time tuning in, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Movin Chains. Our website also movinchains.com. That's movinchans.com. Podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Coach Woolbright was hired in January. He's been the head coach at Lexington for the past 6 seasons. Prior to that, he coached at Fort Dorchester, Gaffney, North Myrtle Beach, and Batesburg-Leesville. Also spent time with the collegiate ranks at App State and Chowan University in North Carolina. So, Coach, how's that transition been? We're talking off air. You're already up there at Clover now. How's that move been getting up to the York County area from Lexington?
It's been good. It's just, high school is almost like college now. It's important that once you're hired a job, you get in there quickly. Got to get to know the kids, start getting your philosophy and culture installed and stuff like that. So being able to be in here really since February, mid-February and stuff like that, it's been big for us. Getting to know the kids, kids getting to know me, kind of getting coaches in place, and getting everything installed. Not as much. I try to tell everybody when you take over a job, the X's and O's are secondary. It's all the other stuff that's important and stuff like that. X's and O's will come.
So, Coach, you got to start off with a moderately difficult one. How hard was it to leave that Lexington Wildcat program? It seemed like a great community, and you guys had a successful season last year.
Yeah, definitely. That was a tough job. I mean, I've been there for so long, almost 7.5 years as AD and head football coach. So, what just vested as a football coach, I was invested in all the athletics there, and we had very successful coach programs, very successful coaches there. And that kind of was tough to do. Kind of grew up in two different areas in my life. I grew up in the Midlands right outside Lexington, and then I grew up here. So, so growing up that way, I knew a lot of people from my dad coaching back there, from growing up there and stuff. So it was tough to go through. But, I did spend my older years, my teenage years and stuff up in the Clover area. So coming back here was big also.
Let's take a look at your coaching career. You've kind of been, all over the state, really. How'd you get into coaching, and just kind of give us maybe a step-by-step of how you got to Clover now?
Yeah, I mean, probably got into coaching from the time I was born. My granddad was a head coach for 35 years. My dad was head coach for 30-plus years. So it's really the only thing I ever knew. My granddad, I can still remember when I was little, he'd always tell me, Perry, you're going to be one of the Woolbright. You're going to change it. You're going to go be a doctor, a dentist, or something. You're too smart. You don't need to be a coach. Don't be like me and your dad. And here I am, 17 years later, I'm a coach. But I kind of knew that was my path, I was fortunate enough to be on the team at Appalachian State. But I knew football wasn't going to be my future. I knew I wasn't going to the NFL. I was a realistic person. So knew I wanted to get in coaching, and was able to kind of GA up there, student coach up there for a year, and then kind of just started from there. When I kind of was graduating, went down and interviewed the same day. I interviewed for Stratford High School quarterback's job. And I interviewed for the Fort Dorchester OC job. Interviewed for both of them the same day. Came back up to Boone next day. That next day, they both called and offered me the jobs. So I kind of had to sit, and knew of both coaches through my dad. Ray Stackley was a great friend of my dad, and then Coach LaPrade and my dad knew each other. So I knew it was going to be two good programs, but I was young, and I was ready to dive headfirst in. So having a chance to be the OC kind of was sealed the deal, probably going to Fort Dorchester, even though Stratford had been a great opportunity and stuff. So I kind of took that job. But being young, 22, 23, I was like, man, I need to scratch that college itch that I still thought I had, and took a job at Chowan University, which is way, 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 way up in the top left corner of North Carolina. I had a son that was born up there, and actually he was born in Virginia. We're so close to Virginia. So kind of did that for a year and a half, and, realized, I had two kids at the time, and D2 college football, everybody thinks what they see on TV is what you get, So I wasn't making a ton of money. Didn't want really the area I wanted to grow my kids up in. And so I was fortunate enough to get on with Phil Strickland at Gaffney. And after being with him for 2 years, I sat down with him and talked with my dad. And I said, I feel like I'm ready to try to pursue my first head job. So I put in for, I remember Bluffton High School was open and North Myrtle Beach High School was open. Put in both, got an interview for both. North Myrtle Beach kind of called me back after my interview and offered me the job. And, I jumped right in with that, and kind of really learned a lot. And the big reason I kind of took that job is my dad kind of gave me some advice that really stuck with me. He said, my whole career, I'd been a coordinator at Fort Dorchester when we were really good. We had a guy named Robert Quinn and Carlos Dunlap. They were pretty good football players. And we had a lot of guys just like that. Been at Gaffney. For 2 years OC at Gaffney, we had some really good players just like they got now. Stuff like he said, he said, you're a good coach, but you need to go find out what kind of coach you are. So you need to go coach some lesser athletes and really hone your skills in. And that's what I was torturing. I came in there guns a-blazing, thought I was going to set the world on fire. Got done with my first season. I was 0-10. I was like, wow, maybe I'm not the good coach I thought I was. But, was able to build that program over 4 years. And that was really big for me, though. Really learned a lot about myself, kind of really set up how I run a program that's followed me from then on, the adjustments I made through that first season and stuff like that, and how to build a program the right way and get kids in a program where they need to be. And North Myrtle Beach is kind of taking off there. Then after that, after the fourth year, Batesburg-leesville came open, really wasn't looking, but Phil Strickland, who I was with at Gaffney, called me up and he said, look, Batesburg's looking for a head coach. He's like, I'm not wanting to go back there, but I gave him your name. Would you be interested? And I said, yeah. I said, I grew up that way. I'd be willing to talk to him. I said, storied program, stuff like that. So kind of went and talked with them and took that job, and 3 great years there. Third year, we lost in the state championship to Abbeville and had planned the next year come back. We had a team. We were going to make it back. I really felt like we could have won it the next year with everybody coming back. But how things happen. Josh, a great friend of mine, Josh Stepp, happened to get on at Georgia State with Coach Elliott. And, Lexington kind of was right there. I was actually living in Lexington. I wasn't living in Batesburg-leesville. So, it's 5 minutes from my house, and just kind of cards fell in place. Then kind of being AD and head football coach, that was a great learning experience too, of managing people, managing the program as a whole and stuff like that. But kind of took the same philosophy of that 0-10. I'm still the same coach that went 0-10 my first year being a head coach. But what I learned that year has kind of got me to here. And then when Clover came open, didn't know if I was interested at first. Saw it kind of came open. Some people reached out to my dad, kind of, hey, you think Perry might be interested? And I said, yeah, I'll be interested to go talk to him and stuff like that. So I came up here, and kind of first time I drew up in town to go interview. I knew excitement kind of built a little bit. This is where I grew up, went to high school with. A lot of these people around here either played for my dad, played with me. And so that opportunity to come back. And the good part of it is I'm not AD anymore, even though I love that part, but giving it up is not a hard thing. And just being football and concentrating on football is great.
So, Coach, you are a Clover High alum. How special is it to coach at your alma mater, and how has that community embraced you and your family in a short amount of time?
It's great, because I understand the program. I understand the community. Clover, as big as we've gotten, we're almost 2,700 students now. When I was in high school, we were right on 1,000, but we're 2,700. 3 years they're opening up a brand new high school. But it's still, when you drive through here, yes, there's areas on the outskirts that's grown up, but it's still the small town of Clover. It's a school that takes pride in their athletics, pride in everything, from their arts to academics. It's one of the top academic schools, the Cornell program, the band program, athletics, everything's important here. So you got the big environment, the bigger school, but you're still a small town pride where on Friday nights, the town shuts down. Everybody's going to come fill Memorial Stadium to watch Blue Eagles. And I think that's big, and get some consistency in here. My dad was head coach for 12 years, went through about 3 different head. Jed Turner came in here, was a few years, did a good job, but then kind of went through some coaching changes real quick. Coach Lane's kind of got it back. He's done a good job getting it back on track. Been here for 5-6 seasons. So now I'm hoping we can continue that and then kind of push it to the next level and get consistency here and bring the pride that the community has back to it.
So, Coach, how is your staff shaping up? You got that fully in place now, or still working on a couple spots here and there?
We're getting close. Still kind of wanted to get through spring practice to get the final couple spots to fill and stuff like that. I got some great guys I kept from Coach Lane's staff that kind of understand Clover, understand what it's about. Have the same philosophies as you. Brought in some guys. Actually, brought in one of my teammates, Richie Williams, who played with me at Appalachian State, Hall of Fame quarterback at App. We were traveled roommates, best friends in college, and And of course, he was the one quarterback. I was the two quarterbacks. So, we were real close and always wanted to kind of mix up. But coming back here, he lives right in Gastonia. He works for NASCAR. So it was able to marry up. So having him on staff's big, and some of the other guys. But yeah, I've still got to get a couple more guys. And I tell you what, I didn't realize, at Lexington, I was fortunate enough. I was very consistent with my staff. I only had to hire 2 people in 7 years there, and stuff like that, But now here and trying to hire some people, the coaching, I never thought it would affect, but the coaching field is like everybody else. Everybody else needs jobs. You can't find people. Coaches become the same way. It is hard to find coaches, which I never thought this profession getting to be. And if you look at our state little message board on SportsU, there's coaches. Just today, I saw 2 coaches post that they need coordinators. I mean, we're at the end of May, and high schools are needing coordinators. So right now, if you want to get in coaching, you can pretty much go anywhere in the state of South Carolina. Somebody's got an opening somewhere.
So, Coach, with the difficulties there, I think you got your coordinators figured out. But we want to ask you, what type of schemes do you like to run offensively and defensively, if you wanted to go through those really quickly for us? And do you call plays on either side of the ball, or do you kind of take up that CEO role, having been a head coach for so long now?
No, I still do the offense. I've done the offense, and, I kind of tinkered before, and never really, kind of Lexington about midway, 4th year there. I was like, should I give it up? But I always talked myself out of, I always said I got to be where I am in coaching because of what I did as an offense coordinator. So why would I give up that part? And I'm a very hands-on coach. I want to know every kid on the team. I want to know what we're doing everywhere. So, I mean, that's kind of my niche to stay. I feel like if I gave that up, I'd just kind of be walking around and be the figurehead, the CEO. I want to be one of the coaches. I always tell my assistant coaches, yes, I'm the head coach and got to make those tough decisions on Friday night and stuff like that. But when we're together, I'm just one of the coaches. And that's what I want to be. I just want to be one of the coaches when I'm out there. I got to make, end of the day, I got to make the big decisions. So offensively will be similar like we were at Lexington. We're going to be a balanced team, try to be 50-50. Now, and I tell everybody, and they're like, well, how do you be 50-50? I was like, well, by the end of the year, we want to be 50-50. There might be some games where we throw it 80% of the times. There might be some games where we run it 80% of the times. So we're going to have an offense set up to where we can be successful both sides, and they marry each other. Our passing game is going to be successful because our running game, and vice versa. But by the end of the year, we will be 50-50. I mean, if you look at last year at Lexington, we had a 2,000-yard running back, 2,000-yard receivers, quarterback that threw for 2,500. So we were very balanced with what we did there, and that they kind of help each other out. Defensively, we'll be in a kind of a 3-4 look. We kind of switched that when I was at Lexington the last few years. I've kind of always been like the odd front because offensively, it's kind of what's given me the most trouble. And 2, just like anything, it's tough. In college, you'll see them kind of go, it's tough to find true D linemen anymore, especially in the 4-man front. You got to have 2 good inside guys. You can usually find the ends, but there's inside guys. So it's a lot easier to find a 3 and then kind of find a rush in to kind of be your 4th rusher in the 3-4. So we'll be kind of a multiple 3-4. It'll look like a 4-man front sometimes, but it'll be mainly a 3-4 base.
You've had the privilege to be around some, really legends in the coaching game, from Coach Strickland to Coach LaPrade to even, your dad and your granddad there. Who are some guys you think have really been big influences on the way that you coach? And then off of that, are there maybe some guys in the college or pro level you like to watch to kind of pick up things from each week as well?
Yeah, I think it's everybody I've been with. Kind of number one, growing up around my dad. My granddad was on the latter year of his career when I was young. But my dad, just seeing the way he built relationships with everybody. It's amazing. He's, in his late 60s, but whether when I was in Columbia with group at Gilbert, whether it's these kids here at Clover, even back his first head job he had in the late 70s at Lower Richland, he just went last week and played in a former alumni golf tournament at Lower Richland High School. But it's those relationships he's built and watching build. So I kind of really got that, and then playing for Jerry Moore in college. You can't find a better person that taught you, number one, how to be tough. And he believed, and we believed as players, there was nothing, no matter who we played, nobody was going to be tougher than us. And he taught us that, and he taught us how to care for people and those type things. And then, starting with Coach LaPrade, you're talking about how to run a program, how to get kids going, a variety. When I was at Fort Dorchester, it's a mix. You got your high economics, you got your low economic. How do you get those kids all on the same page? And he did a great job of that. then working with Phil Strickland, you know, coach is a legend. He's won everywhere he's been, and how he manages, you know, people, how from the coaches, you know, and what I really learned from him and LaPrade, and I kind of tell my coaches when I hired this, is when I hire you to do a job, I've hired you to do that. I'm not going to tell you how to coach your position. I'm not going to coach your position for you. If I did that, I shouldn't have hired you. And that's what I was fortunate about working with Coach LaPrade and Coach Strickland is when I was the coordinator, I was the head coach of the offense. They let me run it. And I've kind of always taken that everywhere with me as a head coach is if I hire a guy for a coach, he does that. I'm not going to micromanage it. I'm not going to tell them this is how they got to do it. You know, I'm going to tell them, hey, I want to see our group do this better. And then they're going to figure out how to do it. You know, I tell the defense coordinator, Coach Peeler here, great guy. You know, I told him day one, I said, you're going to be the head coach of the defense. I said, I don't know what we're doing, but it's your defense. You're the head coach. I'm not going to tell you we need to do this because if I tell you we need to do this, then you don't need to be the coordinator. And so I just the thing. But the biggest thing, if you notice from all those people, nothing had to do with X's and O's. You know, I learned a lot about X's and O's from my assistant coaches that were Scott Satterfield, that's at Louisville, Sean Elliott, that's at Georgia State. You know, I kind of learned a lot of X's and O's, but the head coaches I was underneath as a player, so it's about relationships and people and how to manage things, and that's the biggest things I learned.
So in the background, we can hear your guys getting after it in the weight room. You guys just wrapped up spring ball. How did it go, and what did you learn about your team?
It went good. You know, I just we did finish up Friday night, kind of really getting out of school. So we had 3 optional lift days today, so it's good. We got a big group in there lifting right now, and stuff. But biggest thing, like I told my coaches when we had end of spring meeting yesterday, you know, X's and O's were not important this spring. We got our base offense and we got our base defense and stuff. We got that, but we kind of got the culture that I want instilled here. You know, Coach Lane did a great job involving the community and get the kids going. But just like any coaching change, it doesn't matter if Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban come in after each other. They're going to both be successful, but they're going to have different philosophies. And it's the same way here. Coach Lane did a great job. And it's just getting my philosophy and the culture that we want instilled in these kids. It's the mental toughness. You know, our pillars are always going to be effort, toughness, and discipline. You know, we always want to play with the most effort. We always want to be a disciplined team on and off the field. Do the little things right. I'm a big believer of doing the little things right. And then tough. I mean, football's a tough game. And a big part of toughness is a mental toughness. You know, I think kids nowadays, you know, we're still with the kids that kind of when the young age went through that COVID to where it was tough to be mentally tough because you had to be cautious of everything. But now we're able to kind of get back to real life and getting past COVID. Now that we got to get the kids back to being mentally tough because they got to be able when they graduate high school and they get that job one day, you know, if things are going tough at home with their wife, they got to be mentally tough and learn to get through it. If things are going tough at work, they got to be mentally tough to get through that. If things are going tough out in the real world, they got to be mentally tough. So establishing those things and stuff, and that was able to help us be successful at Lexington as we got our kids that way. We won a lot of games at Lexington that we should not have been in the game. That before the game, when you line up 2 teams, it's like, all right, that team right there, the Wildcats are about to get beat. And we would win a lot of games by overtime, 3 points, 7 points in the fourth quarter because of that mental toughness. So we've been working on getting those things instilled here in our guys here.
So, Coach, who are a couple maybe special players you identified that we should really be on the lookout for here in this 23 campaign?
Yeah, you know, offensively, it'll start with our quarterback, Jalen Hoover. You know, he was a starter for him last year, threw for 2,000 yards. Coach, of course, they were kind of more in an air raid type system, throwing a lot more. They were probably more 70-30 or 80-20 run pass. Our pass run will be more 50-50, like I said, which I think fits he's very athletic. He's one of the best basketball players we got on in the school. So that I think what we're going to do offensively will fit his mold. So he had a good spring, learned a new system. Of course, the passing reads, he kind of already understood from being that, but now it's getting the run reads with our inside zones and our RPOs and things like that. So he did a great job. I think at running back, we got a few guys that could be pretty good. DeMarco Evans is coming back. He was a junior. He'll be a senior next year. He's a bigger running back. And then we've got a younger guy, Landon Stone, who's going to be a junior. Reminds me a lot of Jonah Norris and the way he plays and runs and stuff like that. So I think which would be good having that depth there at running back, which we were fortunate to have at Lexington the last couple of years, have a little depth that helps us with what we're going to be doing. Receivers, we had a lot of guys there. And it's going to be finding the right pieces, which is good. We're going to have some depth there. course, Deion Brown's coming back last year. He was their 1,000-yard receiver, utilizing his speed and in the mixed game. Jay McCoy's a guy that's going to be really good in the slot. Of course, Braden's coming up, and Braden's going to be playing some both sides for us, so he'll kind of be in the slot for us, playing there, and then, of course, be at safety too. So, he's going to be a big two-way player for us. On the defense side of the ball, Jaden Bryant's a guy who I think this summer is going to blow up at camps. He's 6'4", 220. He was MVP at the Palmetto Combine for defensive lineman, and just getting him in front of coaches, not even at camp. I keep telling some coaches because he's really grown. I think last year he was probably 6'2", about 195. So he's just kind of that slender outside linebacker guy, but he's really grown to a man now. And just seeing him, this spring he's picked up an offer for Walford, Elon, Kennesaw State's probably going to offer him when he goes up there in a few weeks. So he's got some camps, but I think once he gets up some camps this summer with his size and movement, he's going to blow up. But he's really going to be the anchor of that outside linebacker group for us on defense. Another D lineman, Peyton Root, was a returning nose guard, is going to do well. And then our secondary, we lost some there, but, we really got 3 safeties to play 2, which is good. Cade Pilgrim and Zach Cheatham are both returning. And then you got Braden. So we got depth there, which is good. That's big in high school ball because, somebody could turn an ankle the first week of summer and be out. And you don't want to be caught with your pants down. So we're able to kind of see what I told Coach the first day of spring. Our spring practice is about getting our culture installed and finding out what we have. It's not we'll get X and O's. It's what we and that's what we're able to get. We know what we got where we got some thin spots where we got to move some guys around and things like that.
Coach, as you transition into the summer off-season program, as a team, are you going to be going to any 7-on-7s this summer that you've already signed up for?
Yes. Yeah. So we kind of got our summer schedule set up. So I know we're going to Gaffney that second week of June, that Tuesday. The next week we'll be going to South Carolina 7-on-7. And then the last week in June, we're hosting one here on a Wednesday with 3 or 4 teams. And then in July, we'll be doing the same thing because kind of and the same way last summer, kind of depends on where July 4th week falls. If you got more June weeks or July weeks. So, it's like last summer. So you only got 2 weeks in July. So we'll be going to an FCA one at York High School and then hosting another one here in July.
Awesome. So, Coach, you mentioned, Brian Lane had done a good job there at Clover, kind of turning the program around, build some stability. What do you think it will take to really get that Blue Eagles program to that next level, though, to kind of even step up and go a little bit deeper runs in the playoffs?
I think it's the consistency of what I feel is important is having guys that understand we have to do the little things right. Even though I think at Clover we could be a little bit more talented year in year out than we were at Lexington, but if we can but we're still not going to be when we got to play the Gaffneys, the Dormans, and Spartanburgs, the Burns. They're naturally just going to be more player to player, more talented. So we got to do the little things right. So if we can get our team and our kids believing in our system and making sure we're accountable every day in practice, we're doing everything right in the classroom, we're doing everything right in the weight room, we're doing the little things, we will get to where we can be a consistent program and we got the talent to make a run deep into the playoffs.
Coach, you mentioned your players performing well at the Palmetto Series. How important are those camps, for getting those guys looks, in addition to the relationships that you've established with college coaches over the year, especially with how difficult things are on that level, all the transfers and all the craziness that's kind of trickling down to high school ball at this point?
Oh, yeah, it is. No, the Palmetto Combine is a great thing that our Football Coaches Association established. Number one, because it's a legitimate camp. If a kid goes to a college camp, that's legitimate. But there's so many of these camps out there that you'll get 50 envelopes in the mail about coming to the camp at X small school and half the kids on there because they're just pulling off some things aren't even on the team anymore. Or it might be a kid that was like a third JV kid and he's getting a letter that they want him to come thing. And then it's $250 to come to this camp. So it's legit. They're getting data with Catapult Sports, running. So it's legitimate data that colleges get. So that's big. And 2, it kind of, because it's broken up by areas, kids can see who their competition are. As I tell kids all the time, you got to understand a college might like you, but you got to understand there's 20 more of you that they're looking at. So they can kind of see who's that other one they're looking at in my area. Then there's a statewide. So then they can see all the results and see how it's statewide compares. So, I think that's big and it helps kind of get the because the big thing I think is happening with high school recruiting is kind of going back to the way it was probably 10, 12 years ago. So, 10, 12 years ago, other than that top 1%, offers didn't really come till late junior year into the senior year and stuff like that. But then we had, the change probably 7, 8 years ago to where if a freshman looked good on Twitter, he was getting offered. Well, I think the portal has kind of changed that around, because now what colleges are doing, they're filling their immediate voids with the portal and then coming back to the high school. I can remember when I was back at Lexington before Christmas break, you got about a 3-week window. Colleges get out right there before Christmas break. We had 3 schools come through Lexington. And I called coaches around the staff, like, man, is it just Lexington? Because, they don't think we have to play. And everybody was consistent. No, and coaches I was reaching out to for our players, trying to get, hey, I got Jonah Norris, I got Kamani Maxwell. So, Coach, right now and I'd hear like, Coach, we're just looking in the portal right now. We'll be back after Christmas. Or, hey, our room's full right now because still what you got one more year of that COVID wave. So rosters are backfilled to where, for example, Walford College loved Jonah last year and might probably offered him, but they're kind of transitioning to offenses. Plus, they got some COVID guys that stayed around, so their running back room's full. So, again, they're not taking anybody. So, I think that's a married thing. So, I think it'll take a year or two, but kids just have to realize it's nothing they're doing wrong. It's just going to happen later. This generation's what they've been through the last 5 years. By sophomore year, if I don't have an offer, I'm not going to make it. Well, it's not the case anymore. It's going to happen. It's just going to happen at a later time.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
We got a couple easier ones here for you, Coach. We'll let you go. So, you've coached, like we mentioned, all around the state, from Horry County area to the upstate to Midlands, whatever it is. What's maybe the coolest or toughest atmosphere that you've been to or kind of coached a game at?
A couple of them. So when I remember in 2009, when I was at Gaffney, we played Dorman at Dorman in the upper state championship game. And it was probably Dorman Stadium. There had to be at least 10,000 people there. Both sides packed. The heel is packed. And they beat us by a last second field goal. And you talking about environment, it was great. We had good ones there. I can remember when I was at North Myrtle Beach, we played Soxty High School. We were 6-0. They were 6-0. Hunter Renfro's senior year. We were pretty good on defense. And then they beat us by a last-second interception by Hunter Renfro. State championship game, you talking about, a lot of people, I tell coaches all the time, I said, look, you need to go coach at every classification because you can really see it. People don't understand, especially when you get around the 2A level, you talking about small town Friday night football where just line up and hit you in the mouth. And so when we were in our conference and we played Abbeville in the state championship when I was at Batesburg, you could have robbed every house in the town of Batesburg and Abbeville and nobody would have known anything. And then at Lexington, the Lexington River Bluff rivalry is awesome. It's packed crowd, both sides, posters, kids yelling and stuff like that. So I've been fortunate, but I think that's a great thing about South Carolina high school football is it doesn't matter where you go on a Friday night, who you're a fan of. You can go somewhere on a Friday night in any area and there's going to be a great environment and great football. And we have great coaches in our state that create great football that people want to come watch.
Coach, I gotta agree with you there. 2A ball has a special place in my heart. It's one of my favorite classifications to go to the small towns and watch those games. But if we're going up to Clover, this is a question we always have to ask. I know you've only been in the area about 5 months now. What are some restaurants we got to hit up in Clover, maybe that York County area, even if you want to drop down to Rock Hill, but try to keep it up there.
Yeah, so if you're in Clover, and it's still open now, Courtney's Barbecue. Mr. Courtney that opened that, him and my dad were real good friends when he first opened that restaurant. And actually, when my dad transitioned from coaching, and when I was in college, he resigned from Clover and took a step back and went and coached at middle school so they could trial me in college. Well, on the side, he was Mr. Courtney's. He ran his barbecue competition team, so he did barbecue competition for him and stuff like that. So that's a good place. Good little diner, Eagle's Nest. It's got a great grilled cheeseburger and tater tots. So if you're definitely up here on a Friday night, those are two great places to come here, and you'll be right in the heart of Clover. So it'd be nothing but Clover around you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we mentioned off air, I think, and you got a chance to play for your dad at Clover, and now you're going to get to coach your kids at Clover as well. How kind of surreal and neat is that experience really for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty neat. I mean, there's probably not too many times, some people do get to go back and coach at alma mater, but to go coach where your dad coached and then have your sons play for you at the same place, it's pretty neat this spring practice, after spring game, of course, took some pictures with the kids and stuff like that on the field. And I can remember being right there with my mom and dad and granddad and stuff, taking pictures after playing on Friday nights and stuff like that. So it'll be a neat experience, getting to coach them. And, you don't think about it, and I don't think about it, but, my oldest one's going to be a senior, so I only got one more year of riding his butt hard and stuff like that. So I don't know if he'll be happy or sad, but I only got one more year of staying in his butt and stuff like that before he goes off and stuff like that. So I'll definitely enjoy the moments.
Piggybacking off that, are we going to get a 4th generation Woolbright coach in the state?
They both say they want to get into it. So we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them, if not both of them, end up in coaching. I think it's when when you're raised on the sideline, when you're raised in the locker room, and that's kind of all and you see how great of an experience it was for you. You kind of want your family to have the same thing.
And you were also you were a student coach at App State when they started that run of 3 straight national championships. How special was that 2005 season up there? I think it was Coach Moore that was the head coach at the time. Yep. How special was that for you as a young coach and getting your cutting your teeth there?
That was great. Playing 4 national championship. Get that experience and stuff like that. Things you remember from the night. I can remember. It was the Andrews girl that's on ESPN now. So she was a young sideline reporter. And that was just when they were starting to broadcast the FCA. It's 1AA national championship game at time. And she's on our sideline, and she trips on the cord where our headphones are cutting, and our headphones go out.
Oh, no.
So they're scrambling. So I'm on the sideline phone with Coach Satterfield in the box. He's calling to play to me. I'm calling to play to our receiver coach, Lonnie Galloway, that's in North Carolina now. He's signaling to play the game, and we ran 2 series. Nobody knew this. We ran 2 series of offense, and that's the chain we had to go through because Sarah Andrews ripped the cord out on the sideline.
Holy cow.
That's awesome.
That's a great story.
Stories.
Yeah. Well, a last one here for you, Coach. What are some of your goals for the 23 season for the Blue Eagles?
I want to have a great year. I think this senior class, I want to win a region championship. Clover's only done that twice here. So I want to win a region championship, number one, and then get into the playoffs. And that's what everybody says. I want to get, but you're giving yourself a chance once you get in the playoffs, and that's all you can ask for. Anything can happen when you get in the playoffs, and all you can do is ask for that chance. So our number one goal is to win a region championship and then get us in the playoffs in a good position to have a chance. And that's all we can ask for. I tell the guys, I told the seniors after the spring game, they have to realize they're only guaranteed 10 high school football games left in their career. And it could be their career of ever playing football. 10 is all we're guaranteed. So what are we going to do to make sure we're not just guaranteed 10? What are we going to do to make sure there's 11? And then after the 11th, are we going to make sure there's a 12? So those are the things we're going to work toward every day, starting June 5th when we kick off summer, working all the way into fall practice.
Well, this has been great. Definitely all of our viewers to go check out Coach Woolbright and the Blue Eagles program on Twitter and Facebook and all social pages. They do a great job posting schedules and highlights and about their players. Definitely go check them out there. Like I mentioned, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. at Movin Chains, website movinchains.com, and our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Google. Movin The Chains brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. So, Jerel, anything else for Coach Woolbright before we let him go today?
Just want to say congratulations, Coach, and thank you for your time today. I know that's a special opportunity for you to get to go coach at your alma mater. I can't imagine how great that is. And then coach your sons as well. We really followed your program closely last year. You had a really great team, and I don't expect anything different with the Clover Blue Eagles. And more importantly, just continue to do what you do. I know you're not that same 0-10, 0-11 coach that you claim to be, but you're much better than that. Just wish you continued success.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate y'all guys. I remember y'all came down last year when y'all first started into a game. Great experience. And that's what's neat about our state. There's guys like y'all that are getting our kids exposure, and that's all. And getting our coaches, our programs in our state exposure. So I appreciate all you guys do for the state of South Carolina and the state of high school football in South Carolina.
Well, thank you, Coach. We really appreciate that. We look forward to stopping by a 7-on-7 or practice and definitely a game next year and getting to chat with you again. All right.
Definitely. Good to see y'all.
All right. Best of luck, Coach.